Hi, everybody. Welcome to Discover College Soccer. And today I'm lucky enough to be joined by Coach Tim from LeTourneau men's program. Welcome, Coach.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Now, I think this is good because I'm almost 350 episodes in, and I'm not sure I have actually talked to a real live grad assistant as part of these interviews. Definitely done head and assistant coaches, but as a lot of folks know, GAs are a big important part of the coaching staff. So it's good to talk to someone who's going through it from that angle. So I appreciate you being on.
Yeah, of course.
So, we're talking. You guys just had graduation, so the spring season's wrapped up. You're hardcore focused on the fall, I'm sure. So, as a Division 3 men's program, kind of give me a state of the union in terms of where are you guys with recruiting? I'm assuming, you're either totally locked in or just finishing up that maybe last player or something on the class of 25. When did that happen in terms of, your timeline of locking up the class? Kind of what did you see in that first year as a GA there?
Yeah. Well, first, I think we've been in a good spot. I think compared to a lot of other Division 3 institutions, we have kind of a niche in terms of the players that we like to recruit. And so when we look at players, obviously for us, it's a holistic approach. And so the academics, also them fitting into the culture and the family that we have here. And then obviously the soccer piece, it's last in that list, but doesn't mean that we don't care about it. And so I think when we look at those things, we were able to figure out stuff really quickly for us. We had majority of our 2025 class committed kind of by the end of last December. And so I would say maybe we had two or three additions after that. Just kind of as we carefully considered going through what the remaining spots looked like, and then obviously with every end of year you have a few turnover of players and trying to fill in the holes with that stuff too. So I would say that majority of our recruiting process and timeline we try to get um, players to have their commitments and decisions by the end of December of their first semester of senior year.
Okay, all right. Well, and with that being said, are you generally like right now focused? I mean, obviously you're focused on the class of 26, is
Mhm.
assuming, but how much of, say, the class of 27 are you looking at from a D3 men's perspective? I know that like the timelines are a little bit shifted. So how much effort, like if you had to put a percentage on it in the next 6 months, right, through between now and the end of the year, maybe
Mhm.
how much of the recruiting effort will be spent on 26s versus 27s?
Yeah, I would say it's honestly probably a good close to 50-50 if I were to take a guess because again with the 26s currently a lot of these players that we've been in contact with and identified already. It's now really trying to get them on campus, trying to get them to be here present with us, meet the team, meet the coaching staff, maybe hop in a training session. And so, obviously there's players and with the whole transfer portal and how that affects, all different institutions all over the place. I think, there's always going to be special cases here and there with last minute stragglers and whatnot. But I think in terms of where we're at with our 26 class, I think a lot of it is continuing to build the relationships with the players that we've already been in contact with. And then I'd say we're more in the identification phase of the 27 class, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. Well, and you guys are, I mean, I would say a little bit unique for a Division 3 program in the fact that even though you're in Texas, your roster is fairly well represented outside of Texas even. So where is it that you guys like to go to do this player identification and following up? What tournaments are you hitting? Kind of what's your focus there?
Yeah, no, great question. I think so. Talking with our head coach and our staff, we really like to we're trying to create a national presence more and more in terms of building our program and being well known, not just in the state of Texas. As you know, Texas is saturated with clubs and schools, and I think it's a good place, and there's a lot of good competition and high level players here. But yeah, we do have like I said, a niche in terms of we're a big STEM institution. And so, our engineering majors, aviation majors, that like a lot of our players that come to LeTourneau, even from out of state, know the rigorous and high kind of reputation of our academics. And so, that's what they look for, and that's why they're here. So I'd say we have a good pool from, states like California, Tennessee. I'd say even on the East Coast, we had a kid from South Carolina come last year. And so we don't really limit, I'd say our net. We kind of cast a wide net and see what we get. In terms of the showcases and events that we like to be to, it's probably a lot of those, ECNL showcases and MLS Next fests if we can. And so I'm really trying to create a national just presence of being at all those events as much as we can, and then connecting with players and even looking into players not from just the state of Texas. I'd say our roster right now, currently, it's split probably 55-45 in terms of 55% being from Texas and the other 45% being from out of state. And then we kind of do that intentionally as well. I think when we look into the culture that we're trying to build, the the reality is if you have everybody coming, from Texas and is local, when you have a longer weekend or whatnot, everyone's going home and everyone's trying to, just be back with their families. But we really do want to create that family environment here in Longview for the boys. And so as we recruit, if we have players coming from out of state, it almost kind of forces them to be plugged in and connected with the community that we have here. Even the guys that are local, it kind of allows them to use this opportunity to kind of help those guys coming from out of state get acquainted with Texas and the culture here, I would say. And then also just from a soccer side of things, it gives us a good perspective of, there's talent everywhere, and even the soccer culture is different in a lot of different states. So I've come from playing overseas and in Virginia, Ohio. So my journey's been, I know a lot of what that difference in culture, soccer culture looks like. So
Yeah, for sure. Well, what about camps? Do you guys do ID camps, or do you or the rest of your staff work ID camps? Are they part of the process at all?
yeah, we just hosted one earlier this May, and currently this summer, with our coaching staff transition, we're trying to just figure some things out. But our goal is to have one, pretty much one in the winter, one in the spring, and then probably one in the summer is how we like to approach it. And so that's moving forward 2026, 2026. That's probably the route that we'll go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, in terms of whether it's at a showcase or a camp or any of these things, kind of what makes up that hierarchy of things you guys are looking for in a player both on and off the field?
Yeah. So I can tell you kind of from what like I said, our program looks for. We are a Christian institution, and so I think the way players carry themselves on and off the field, we look into that a lot. Obviously, like I said, the soccer piece of it is it's there, but what I've come to realize, in the last year is I think there's a lot of good players out there, and a lot of players that can play the game and know how to do things, and can be special. But for us, it's really about finding like holistically the right fit. And so, we can have players that are really good soccer players, but whether it's personality wise, academically, or even just culture wise, we don't see aligning with the program. And so, yeah, I think when we talk to players, obviously the soccer piece wows us and gets us interested in them. Like whether it's their highlights, the showcase, the game that we go to, that's kind of what draws us into looking into the player. But once we do that, for us, it's really about relationship building. At least for me, one of my big things is I think I connect well with players, having been in that recruiting process not too long ago myself. I understand what players look for, what they consider during this time. And so I like to be someone that can just be a resource for them and build that relationship with them, help them walk through the process. Selfishly, I hope they end up here and, playing for us and doing well. But even if they don't, I really want to help them kind of be able to find the best fit and best spot for them. And so, like I tell all the players that I get on a phone call with or have a conversation with, it's really about, me helping you be a resource for you and helping you find the best fit and really getting to know you as a person as much as we do as a player.
Okay, great. Well,
Yeah.
in terms of the roster itself, is there, and so I guess one thing you gotta make known, you've been there a full year, but you guys, like you said, you just had a coaching transition. You could have a new coach, or you have a new coach now. So, have you talked about roster size at all? What he's interested in? What you guys feel is kind of the ideal number there?
Yeah, yeah. None of it really changes. A lot of how we've done things in terms of, the culture standpoint, the way, our athletic director has done a really good job in terms of making sure this transition is smooth and has gone well. And so I don't think a lot of that will change. Even with our play style, we try to be a team that we want to have the ball. We want to play a brand of soccer that's, fun, attractive to coach and play. And we're not a direct team by nature. We want to have the ball and break down teams and create space and manipulate the space. And so we like playing a brand of soccer that's attractive and fun to watch and coach. And so when it comes to I'd say the logistics of how we run the program, roster size will still be around that 33 to 35 range. I would say we don't have in terms of from an institutional standpoint, we don't have you have to hit this many players in terms of enrollment and stuff like that. The university's in a pretty good spot. So for us, it's really about bringing in the players that we feel can help us. And, whether you're coming in as a freshman, as a transfer, whatever that looks like, we want players that we feel like can make an immediate impact for us, whether it's on or off the field. And so I'd say, yeah, roster size would look around that 33 to 35 range. 33 is ideal for us. That's three players in each position. And so I feel like if it goes below that, sometimes you struggle with numbers when injuries and that stuff happens. And then if it's over that, it gets a little hard to manage. So I think that's a sweet spot for us right there.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the school for some folks who maybe don't know about the school. You've now been there a year, and I'm sure you've learned lots of cool stuff, but I'm sure there's also some things that just drew you to it initially. So talk to me about that. What have you found that's great? Maybe some things we wouldn't even know by going through the website.
Yeah, no, for sure. I I'll start with what drew me down here. So before I came down here, I was coaching at a club team out in Fredericksburg, Virginia, and had a director role straight out of college, which was a huge blessing, and worked with kind of the younger U12, U14 teams, and so that was kind of how I got my foot in the door as a coach. And then as I considered what good options would be there for me as stepping into the collegiate coaching side of things, I think I was drawn specifically by the the potential and the growth phase that LeTourneau University is in right now. So in terms of like when I came to visit down here in Longview, first the weather was beautiful for it being like in February. I was used to cold winters up in Ohio and Virginia during that time of the year. So I enjoyed the weather. It gets a little hot in the summer, I'm not gonna lie, but I like the weather down here. And then when I came and visited, there were so many projects that had been taking place or started. They broke ground on a new multi-million-dollar indoor track facility. They've renovated, like we have a new weight room specifically for our athletes, kind of built within the last year. They've renovated all the indoor spaces. And so a lot of these things that in terms of facilities, the investment being made, the resources being poured into the university were very encouraging for me when I came down on a visit. I wanted to be in a place and part of an institution where things are growing. So, in the last 3 years, enrollment's been going up every single year for the university. Like I said, there's multiple projects, donations, donors, fund like all in financially and just from a student body perspective, everything's kind of in a healthy spot in a growth phase. Where unfortunately, for a lot of private institutions, that's not really the case since COVID. And so that's where that was a big encouragement for me coming down. And then, like I said, the relationships is the second biggest thing for me. It's where I felt connected to the people down here in whether it's the athletic department, the faculty, the staff, and even just the players on our roster. I think there's a special family kind of close-knit environment here at LeTourneau, especially with it being maybe a smaller campus compared to other schools that you know everybody that you see, and everybody cares about you. Everybody wants success for you and the best for you, and so you really feel that when you're a part of things here.
Okay, great. Well, let's fast forward to the fall. Let's say you're in the middle of that conference season. Kind of walk me through what's a week gonna look like for a player in terms of winter practices, games, classes, meals, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I will say for us, we have around 15-ish engineering majors on our roster. And so, like I said, being a STEM institution, we understand that there's a heavy workload in terms of academics that we see that our kids go through. But also we demand a lot from them. Our team goal in terms of our GPA is we have to be above a 3.3. And that's been the standard for the last 3 years. And so I think when we look at the day in their life, we understand like soccer is going to be a big piece of things, especially in season, but we don't want to consume their entire time um, outside of class with soccer. So I'd say they're probably with us specifically as a coaching staff anywhere from 3 to 4 hours a day, max 4 hours. And so they'll wake up usually depending on their first class, 8 or 9 a.m., grab quick breakfast, go to classes in the morning, have lunch around noonish. And most of them will have labs, especially our engineering majors, kind of early into the afternoon. And so we will start our weight training Monday, Wednesday, Friday is when we will be in the weight room. They will go from 4 to 5, just a quick hour in and out. They're working with our full-time strength and conditioning coach in the weight room, making sure that it's not we're not overworking them. A lot of it is going to be recovery, injury prevention stuff, especially during season, and just maintaining the strength and conditioning that levels that we do have. Um, and then they'll be with us out on the fields from 6:30 to 8. So that's kind of it's a late practice, but that's just because they have to go through their whole schedule in terms of school and homework and classes and the earlier in the day. And so yeah, after that, we encourage our guys. We have them go to study hall hours during the day because if you're getting done with practice at 8 o'clock and then hitting the showers, grabbing dinner, it's 9, 10 p.m. and it's not really the best time for you to be productive with your academics. And so we encourage our guys, find time during your day. Time management is going to be really important for you to kind of knock that stuff out before coming to practice. And then yeah, so we'll train an hour and a half to 2 hours depending on what we're working on in between games. So this next year we'll be playing Friday, Sunday, because we're moving to the SCAC, which is a new conference, and they play Friday, Sundays. And so we'll be doing a lot of recovery during that Saturday in between games. I would say a lot of the training and even in the weight room is going to be geared towards recovery and keeping our guys fresh. At the end of the day, if they're not healthy, there's nothing that we can really do.
Right. Well, you mentioned a strength and conditioning coach, and obviously you're the GA. So just talk to me about all the staff that's there that's working with the team, and as well as the head coach.
Yeah, so our new head coach incoming started May 15th. So a few days ago was just announced TJ Milby. So he'll be coming in. Really excited for him. A good friend of mine. We both went to the same university, Cedarville University up in Ohio. And so and that's kind of how I knew him. There wasn't really any overlap, but through alumni and friends, kind of got to have a good friendship and relationship with him. And so he's coming down as the new head coach. And then so yeah, I'm the assistant coach here. We have Coach Wright, who is kind of a volunteer assistant at the moment. He's a Longview legend. He's played for the university way back in the day, and he coaches at Longview High School right now for the boys team there. And then he kind of works, with our goalkeepers, helps a lot of practice stuff during the fall. And then we have our full-time strength and conditioning coach, Coach Lucas Mason. He does all the kind of data management, workload management, and the the sports science specific stuff, whether it's programming, their lifts and all the weight room stuff, our GPS data. He does a lot of that stuff for us, and so he's big asset to the team for us for sure. And then yeah, that's pretty much the four of us really.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, well, and you mentioned this a little bit before, but you know, talk to me a little bit about um, you know, what would normally happen in a spring season, right? Like what's that off-season training gonna look like and what are players gonna be focused on when it's not that fall competitive season?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is, especially being part of the Division 3, is we do understand now like this spring is also time for our guys to really hone in on their classes, their academics, and so I'd say most of our players will take maybe one or two extra classes and load up their credits during the spring semester. So we only get 8 weeks to train as a Division 3 institution, and so we'll train basically 4 weeks before spring break, 4 weeks after spring break. We'll go 3 days a week compared to 6 days a week when we're in season, and so it's a little bit lighter in terms of the days that we go, but I think the intensity, perhaps even some of the workouts and the training that we're doing is going to be a little bit more geared towards strengthening, really pushing them and helping them build muscle and build their stamina, because we want to make sure that they're heading into the summer in a good position to maintain that and then come into the fall ready to start. So the spring, a lot of it is again with our strength and conditioning coach. He'll do a lot of the fitness tests, the lifting, which kind of ramps up a lot more in terms of the weights that they're doing and how they go about really putting on muscle and becoming stronger, more explosive and more agile. All that stuff is geared towards building them in the spring. And then the on-field sessions, I would say, we'll work a little bit more specifically with individual players and positions and small groups, so that we're working a lot more on the technical development side of things, where players feel like, hey coach, I need to work on this, or where we feel like, hey, like you need these things sharpened before the next season. So we'll work a little bit more closely on the technical side of things, where obviously in the fall it's going to be a lot more tactical and geared towards the game and the conference and the opponents we're playing.
For sure, makes sense. Well, hey, I appreciate you kind of peeling back the curtain behind LeTourneau and letting us know about it. I'm gonna leave you with one last question, especially as someone who's kind of just wrapped up their collegiate career, but also helping young men start theirs. If you had one piece of advice for anybody going through this process right now, what would that be?
Yeah, I would say personally for me, I think as I look through my journey and relate it to a lot of the players that either we talk to or we're looking at, there's a good fit for you wherever, and it's out there somewhere. Be diligent in reaching out, looking, praying, seeking advice, seeking counsel. Those are things that really helped me. And just because you knock on the door somewhere and it doesn't open doesn't mean that it's done and it's over and you don't have anything left. That there's really somewhere out there for you, and there's plenty of institutions, plenty of great players. And again, I think it's really about fitting the best fit for you holistically. Can you see yourself there after 4 years? What I like to tell our incoming players, and what I wish I told myself when I was looking at this entire process, is um, I should not, or you should not have your entire identity wrapped up around soccer, because at the end of the day, it's a great sport to be able to play, and it brings community and it has all these benefits, whether it's um, helping you go through college and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, soccer, it can be taken away from you. God forbid someone gets injured, something happens, to you where you're not able to play anymore. Do you still see yourself fit in with the institution holistically? Do you still see yourself being able to go through 4 years of your time there, even if the soccer piece was taken out of the equation. And so that's something that, I think is really important for guys to look at. We tell our guys we don't want their identity to be wrapped up around soccer. It is a good thing. It is a bonus. It is something that, drives us. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for soccer as well. But I think there's more to every single school and every player that outside of just soccer that we really want to be able to learn and grow and wrestle with those things together with them too. And so that would be my advice.
All right. Well, I really appreciate it. Wish you the best of luck with the new coach and wrapping up your GA, and hopefully you guys will maybe hang that the first conference banner of that new conference too.
I appreciate it, Matt. Thanks for your time,
Like you.
sir.